I've just got thoughts. Okay, I just got off of Startup Club and I got a double dose of Annie Lalla today. She is just absolutely amazing and I love her so much. What came up today is the idea of feelings that aren't yours. She talks about this a lot, how there's shame, blame, and make wrong, and that it really ties into what I do with birth. Is that I talk about, especially in my empowered birth workshops, I talk about how you need to release your fears. And there's a key component where I talk about examining where those fears in birth came from, and also those cultural expectations, such as you give birth in the hospital, you don't give birth at home, you listen to the doctor, you don't listen to your own intuition, you just do whatever other people tell you to do, you don't be a hero, you get the epidural because you don't want to have a tooth extraction without pain meds, so you wouldn't want to do birth without pain meds either. Who do you think you are to want to have this beautiful empowered birth? Don't you know that like you're acting like you're better than the rest of us? That sort of thing. And so Annie really talked about, it's like you need to be curious when you're looking at those feelings that come up, those shame, blame, and make wrong feelings that may not be yours to begin with. They came from somewhere, but they didn't come from you originally. They came from your family, your culture, and just be curious about them. And at the time I was like, oh, so like a vampire. I probably should have explained that a little better. Because I mean, there's an idea that vampires are like totally evil, right? But in my case, I had just actually, backstory, I'd been watching the Vampire Diaries. I got back into my little fangirl show, and I've been watching Damon with his dreamy blue eyes and his dark hair and his smile and just, yeah, I totally had a thing for Ian Somerhalder, specifically Damon. But the idea is, like, in Vampire Diaries, there's good vampires and there's bad vampires. So the idea when she was saying, well, you need to be curious about this meme, this normative, this cultural expectation of your shoulds and what you should do, and see if that even aligns with your values, is what it came down to. So for birth, you look at it as, I'm being told I should just go and get this induction at 41 weeks or at 39 weeks. I should do this. I should just listen to my doctor. And it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right. Like this should doesn't feel like it's my should. It feels like somebody else's should. But I also feel like I need to connect with that person and make them approve of me. Either it's our care provider, or we need to be approved by our family or our friends, and seeking that approval. And one thing you learn as a mom is that it's time for you to step out of seeking other people's approval and instead focus on you approving of yourself, because you are the one who knows your body best. You are the one who is going to know what's best for your child. Nobody else can tell you. As a parent, I've even noticed this. People will be like, oh, well, you know, your child should be doing this, or you should be doing this with your child. And I would say, look, I mean, I get it that you feel that me putting my kid in timeout right now is going to somehow make him listen. But I'm telling you, I've done that. And all that happens is he gets more and more anxious. So that's not going to work. Or when they say you should put your baby in the crib. And I'm like, look, I'm telling you, like, there is no way that this kid is going to do that, because it just does not work for them. However, nursing them to sleep at night actually does get them to sleep easier. And I am getting more sleep, and this is working for me. And the same thing for birth. The idea you should have your birth you should have your labor progressing by this point. You should be further along than you are. And it's like, look, I get it. Like, the textbook says that as a second-time mom, I should have progressed at a faster rate. And the reality is that I'm tired, I'm hungry, my body is slowing down, and I'm going to rest. There's nothing wrong with me and my baby, and I'm going to send you home so you can get some sleep, midwife and doula, and I'm going to go and sleep, and we'll pick up again later. And the idea that you should call your midwife as soon as labor begins. And I'm like, look, I get it. I should. However, my value is autonomy in birth. And I know that if I call her back, I'm not going to have that autonomy because she has a whole bunch of shoulds on her side. So back to my metaphor with the vampire is the idea of being really curious. Is it Damon at the door? In which case, come on in, Damon. You dreamy, dreamy thing, you. Absolutely come on in. Or is this vampire somebody you don't want to invite inside the house? Is this the one that's going to rip my throat out, or is this the one that's going to make all my fantasies come true? And I didn't get into that on Startup Club, but that was basically my thoughts when I was like, okay, cool, vampire. Like, you want to see if this idea, this cultural idea and meme is a friendly one that's going to allow you to reach your higher potential or get your dreams met, or is it going to rip your throat out and ruin your day? So that was basically my thoughts, is like vampires, because as I said, I'd been watching the Vampire Diaries, and I've got so much more that I would love to get into on this. I could probably go on a huge tangent. There's probably a lot of things that I haven't explored yet with this, but I am so tired because I actually got off of, like you may have seen before, I finished up with my client for their birth on Monday, and I was with them all day from 4 a.m. all the way until almost 6:30 at night. And like, just the baby was born at 1:30, but yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, it was just absolutely amazing what this family did. And that was really it. It's like, even when I was as a doula and being like, okay, there should be more progress happening. However, mom's coping well, dad's helping her. This family needs me to step back and just observe. Nothing's wrong here. This is just my own little story. And this little story, I'm going to put aside. Because one thing I've noticed as doulas is that we can either perpetuate the system, or we can do what our actual role is, which is to step back and watch our clients do the work for themselves. And inside of the Transforming Birth Luminaries, that's what we've really been learning, is how to step back and actually hold space. Not control things, not tell people what to do, not make them get up into certain positions when baby's not moving fast enough. Like, I could have done all that. But I remember what it was like for me when all I wanted to do was sleep, and my doula and my midwife were like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. There was nothing wrong with me or my daughter. The only problem is that the system and the checklist was like, she's a second-time mom and she should be progressing by this point. But that does not affect anything. Your birth is going to unfold the way it unfolds. And you can either accept it and go with that flow of your own body and recognize, like, there is nothing wrong here. Even if it's taking longer than I think it should, if I feel okay and my baby feels okay, then we can just let this unfold. We can just do this thing. Or we can try to control everything and possibly end up with a worse situation. Like, for instance, deciding to have a vaginal exam at 6 centimeters, getting the most painful cervical check ever, and then having labor shut down for 16 hours, and then like have labor start up again, but you're now basically deciding I have to call the midwife at the end. But it might not have gone that way for me. is I could have done the other one, which was the actual protocol, which was me transferring to the hospital, having them break my water, and possibly inducing me to get that labor going. And I chose not to do that. So if this metaphor helps you to think about it as sexy vampire versus evil vampire who's coming to rip your throat out, and being curious about every single little thought that comes into your head of I should do this, or this is what's expected of me, or if I don't do this, people are going to be mad at me. And really think about it as, is this something for my highest good and aligned with my own values and what I want to do as a mom? And this goes right into parenting too. Does this parenting suggestion feel aligned with my values and what I really want to do? Or does it feel icky and wrong, but I think that I need to do it to seek some sort of approval? If you have that idea, then it's perfect. Like I said, I use the metaphor of the sexy vampire. And I'm probably going to be talking about this when I start the Empowered Birth Workshop next month on November 1st. I'm going to be running another one. So if you're curious about that, send me a message. If you're curious about what I've been learning in Virtual Coach, hey, we have an event coming up very soon. Registration is going to be open and you can talk to me about that as well. But I really wanted to share this piece before it flies out of my little head about this vampire metaphor that I inadvertently picked up while I was learning today. And just before I go, tonight's a full moon. And I've started to be doing these rituals during the new moon and the full moon. New moon, I set my intentions. Full moon, I release anything that's not serving me. So tonight, I'm going to be releasing anything that's not serving me. And I invite you to do the same. Start taking inventory right now about everything that hasn't been working for you and let it go. Let it go tonight. Be like, I am releasing this, because there's something about the power of the full moon that will allow you to start the cycle anew. Nature works in cycles, and so do we. All right. I will see you soon. Bye.